Hey there, welcome to the supplemental review for my review of Star Wars The Last Jedi. There's a few things I left out of the review that I wanted to touch on. First of all is the appearance of Yoda's Force Ghost. And the scene involved. It was really a beautiful scene, and Luke, despite being essentially a Jedi Master, learned more about the Force. And the action that he was going to do, destroy the tree that housed some ancient Jedi texts, but he decided not to, but then Yoda manipulated the Force to create a storm of lightning that would set the tree on fire. I just kind of loved it, and also it also mirrored how the events that led up to Ben Solo's fall to the dark side. Really loved that symmetry there. Also, I can't wait till some of the parody channels on YouTube start making the parodies, because I'm pretty sure one of them will have Yoda's Force Ghost and Luke roasting marshmallows. I just see it happening in some of those parody channels. I just see that happening so much. Also, the opening. When I first watched, I was like, is the text a slightly different color? But then I saw a picture after watching it, of course. Saw a picture of the original series, and there was some text variation color similar to Empire Strikes Back for that. So okay, the text can, and also I'm also more used to watching on a small screen at the big movie theater screen, so that probably also somewhat distorted the perceptions of the color from normal. But beyond that, the opening, how it goes to space and we see the resistance fleeing, Dako, and then we zoom in on the resistance forces, and then we zoom in on the ships coming out of the planet, and then onto the planet surface. That's just so beautiful. It's just something you really don't expect, and it's just done so wow. Another thing I want to mention on, some people may hate on it, claiming it's similar to Empire Strikes Back, just to hate on it. There's gonna be those people. It really does not not hate on Empire. It really does not match Empire too much. Sure, there's some similarities, but they're mostly semantic. Semantic. Pretty much the main similarities to it is the First Order is coming out strong from a defeat, taking control of the galaxy. The Empire already had control of the galaxy, but really confirming its control. And the First Order is taking control, but they do strike back, and they do so much more successfully than the Empire did. But unlike an Empire, the Resistance got a head start in the evacuation, but they failed much worse than the Rebels did. Just something neat there. In fact, I would say there's more similarities to Return of the Jedi than Empire Strikes Back, in fact. No, I think it was some channel, I think E.C. Henry, I don't know if I got it right, or it could have been the film series, I forget, but basically said that the Force Awakens contained elements from all of them. True, it does, really, it does contain, it does mirror the Force, A New Hope in the overarching elements, but the acts mirror individual sequences in the film more so than anything. So, with the first act being similar to the first act of Force Awakens, second act being similar to that of Empire, and third act being similar to third act of Return of the Jedi for the Force Awakens. The Last Jedi, its first act is more like that of The Empire Strikes Back, but the first act of The Empire Strikes Back, first half. That's what it's more like, to a certain extent. And then also Luke's reluctant training of Rey contrasts with how Yoda's reluctant training of Luke. Yoda's reluctance was more to make sure Luke was ready to be trained, but Luke's reluctance to train Rey was to make sure that was, well, just because Luke didn't want to train. Yoda did want to train, Luke did not. Some difference there. But when but when and then there is a confrontation in the Last Jedi, like the Empire. Rey says that she believes there's some good in Kylo, and Luke does not necessarily deny it, but he doesn't necessarily support it either. Probably he's conflicted on that because of what's what is revealed earlier in the film. This is kind of a nice little touch there, I'm going to say for that at best. But and then Rey lets herself be captured by the First Order in order to turn Kylo, like Luke did and succeeded in Return of the Jedi. In fact, that's probably more similar just to Return of the Jedi. It's like The Force Awakens contained elements from all of the movies. For Last Jedi, it contains lots of elements really from from the last two installments of the original trilogy. There is actually quite a lot. But it's not, it's a kind of a good way, and it's not like as clear cut as it was in The Force Awakens, where it kind of in a way borrowed thematically from the main film, from the saga films, thematically and maybe the storyline. But in The Last Jedi, okay, what the Resistance was doing mirrored the first act of the Empire Strikes Back, including the asteroid scene. That what the Resistance did mirrored that. What Rey did loosely, repeat, loosely mirrored Luke's time on Dagobah. Very loosely. She even had her own dark side cave experience, but gained like nothing out of it, just more conflict. Luke gained something, confusion maybe, but still. And then of course the draw out of the training to do something, and it's kind of interesting. The mentor-mentee relationship is actually very different between Luke and Rey than it was between Luke and Yoda. Very different mentor-mentee relationship. Luke's a reluctant trainer who doesn't want to train. Yoda's a reluctant trainer till he's sure the pupil is ready. It's not like that in the Last Jedi, which is kind of neat. How they kind of make it similar enough that it makes sense storyline, and there's some thematic similarities to make you know a Star Wars. But as soon as, like, in fact, the entire movie for the Resistance is like the evacuation on Hoth and the asteroid scene. That's essentially what the Resistance is doing, just that little bit there. And then, but what Rey's doing is is like nowhere, is loosely, extremely loosely related to what Luke did and up till he left Dagobah. Very similar enough where they both seek out training in a sense, but Luke wants to be trained at first, is now reluctant. Rey was reluctant to admit it, and Luke is reluctant to train her. In Empire, Luke wanted to be trained, and Yoda was reluctant until he was sure Luke was actually ready and not just wanting to be trained. Kind of a good way to draw that. But once Rey leaves Act 2, the storyline changes. It changes actually right before she leaves, really. Where it's drawn from other films. Doesn't really leave what happened in Empire. That I don't even know if it was actually there. But it follows more what's going on in Return of the Jedi. Which is quite an interesting note, I'm going to say. Kind of a neat way to draw them together, but keep them separate. And I have a feeling Episode 9 will be even more different, even harder to detect any similarities between films. Because, the Emperor and Snoke both fell because of the same reason. They were overconfident in their apprentices' ability to be loyal to them. What the difference, though, between Kylo Ren and Darth Vader's betrayal is that when Darth Vader betrayed the Emperor, he became Anakin once again and was redeemed. Kylo Ren, when he betrayed Snoke, he killed Snoke very quickly, mind you, after no lightsaber duel. Right, in fact, there was really no proper lightsaber duel in this film. The closest is when Rey and Kylo fought off Snoke's guards, closest thing, and they weren't using lightsabers. But it seemed like one was using a light whip, but it wasn't. But it reminded me of a light whip in design and style, but I don't think it was. But yeah, that was actually kind of a neat thing there. And then what happened after that? Well, I would say, except for the Resistance kind of still mirroring the first half of Empire Strikes Back, yeah, the story just took its own turn as everything came together. But really, if this was say Star Wars was structured around 2-film duologies instead of 3-film trilogies, this would have made a very good 2 sets of films. You have the rise of the heroes and the bad guys come back, heroes on the lost, you gotta wait for the heroes to come back. But it is quite interesting and quite actually, in my opinion, well done, blending the elements from Empire and Return of the Jedi, and then really blending them together. No, and by not even and by using different elements, like keeping the Resistance more focused on being the middle part of the film, but for Rey and Kylo, especially Rey, it does more mirroring of Return of the Jedi, but it totally turns it on its head to make it like, what is it going to happen? Is what the heroes are not going to be at the lowest, but does not end up being happening that way, which in my opinion is actually a very good way to go against the tropes that was going to be not a way going to be similar to Return of the Jedi, but similar to Empire by making it similar to has some Empire similarities, of course, because mid the story, but keeping it very limited to a small group of characters, but how they're trying to get out of the situation that was the same for the rebels and the resistance. The resistance had it much worse and tried more difficult and risky solutions to it, including a mutiny in their own ranks. Come on, that did not happen to the rebels. The resistance are in much worse shape. But you keep that similar enough, but you still turn it on its head by having the conclusion being very down. Despite, the resistance keeps going on, but what's going on, the heroes thinks maybe it will end more like, it will end on a decently high note, but all we get is the few survivors evacuating aboard the Millennium Falcon. It's not really, it's a good way of you play on the tropes that people suspect. You add tropes from another film in your own saga, in your own series. Then you play them at the same time, and at the very end you play what the film could be setting up for, and play it against itself, and you get a very somber conclusion, which is, in fact, in my opinion, quite enjoyable to say the least. Quite a neat event to occur that really does play against the fears that most Star Wars fans had. So thank you for watching this supplemental review. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like, and as always, have a good day, a good night, wherever you are. May the Force be with you, always.